In today's show, Anfernee Simons goes nuts. A 22-point third quarter. The Blazers roll over the Denver Nuggets, and they're 4-0 for the first time in 2 decades. Who saw this coming? Not me, but let's have some fun with it. Welcome to Locked On Blazers.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. You're listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making this show your first listen every day. Free on all platforms, 5 days a week, the only daily Trailblazers podcast. So start your day listening to Locked On Blazers. Make it your first listen every day. It's your team every day right here on the show. What a freaking fun night of basketball. The Portland Trailblazers are so gosh dang gee golly fun. This is a family show. No swearing on here, but part of me on the inside has already sworn several times because this is just a really, really fun basketball game. Fun basketball team played a fun basketball game. They win 135-110 in Denver. We'll recap the game with the fastest recap in the West. Anfernee Simons went bonkers, brought the house down. Damian Lillard said it felt like the fans were going to fall onto the court because Ant was going so nuts. We'll talk all about Anfernee Simons as promised, as foretold on yesterday's show, and we'll talk about Anfernee Simons. And we'll close the show. I think this is a sustainable level of play for the Blazers. That's not 82-0, but this team has the makings and the ingredients to be a good basketball team, and boy was I wrong about that. So we will discuss all of that in today's show, but we got to do what we do at this time. Fastest recap in the West. The Blazers came out flat. In the first 4 minutes, they're down 14-3. They started 1 of 5 from the floor. They're down 31-23 in the first quarter, trailed by as many as 13 points in the second quarter, but a really nice close to the second, like a really strong close heading into halftime. They're down just 61-55 at the break. Dame had 19 in the first half. Nikola Jokic only had 2 shots for the Nuggets. It was a weirdly passive game for Jokic early. I think the Blazers were, aggressive on him, and Nurk was pressing up and all of those things. But he was just, they were up comfortably by double digits. They were splashing threes. Aaron Gordon had it going. Michael Porter Jr. had it going early on, very early, and then not at all late. Jamal Murray made some shots. And Jokic was taking a step back. He wasn't being super aggressive. It was a weird game where he only had 2 field goal attempts in the first half, just 2 shots. Maybe he should have got it going a little bit earlier because the Blazers turned the tide in that third quarter from down 61-55 in the half to up 13 heading into the fourth, a 44-point third quarter highlighted by the man we're going to talk about a whole bunch today, Anfernee Simons, 22 points in the third. 22 points in the third. 8 of 8 from the floor. 6 of 6 from 3 to start, and then missed a final shot. Missed a three-pointer from the right wing when he had it rolling. 22 of what he finished with 29 in that third quarter. As the Blazers blow the game open, they take a 13-point lead with a huge third into the fourth, and they never look back from there. Damian Lillard helped close the door, and they win 135-110. A 25-point blowout that was over. It was over at the 7-minute mark. Ball game. 42 minutes or 41 minutes into this thing. Ball game. See you later. We got everybody played except for Justice Winslow, who missed the game with a ankle injury that he had, a right ankle sprain that he had sustained in the prior game against the Lakers. There was a moment in the second half against the Lakers where Justice on the baseline clearly rolled his ankle, played it through that game, but it was bothering him today and he did not play. I did see him warm up. He went through warm-ups and he played. Keon Johnson took his spot in the rotation. Keon made his season debut and played well. But he's not the name to know. The name to know is Anfernee Simons. 29 points, 5 assists, and 3 boards. Damian Lillard led the way, 31 points, 8 assists, and 6 rebounds. Jeremy Grant had 21. Jusuf Nurkic shrugged off what was a very, very, very ugly start to this one for Nurk. Finished with 13 points, 12 rebounds, and 6 assists. Respect to Jusuf Nurkic for not letting go of the rope. He was brutal early in this game, and he came around and just ended up having just a solid stat line and really, after missing a million kajillion layups to start this game, missing his first 6 shots, found himself and scored. Like he really was pretty darn solid. Nazir Little, 11 points off the bench. He continues to be, after a really dud opener, Naz has given the Blazers solid minutes off the bench. Like he's not wowing, blowing you away, but just he does solid stuff. Like he's a solid contributor. He's the guy you want. And Shaedon Sharpe had 11. We're not going to talk a ton about Sharpe, but I thought Shaedon Sharpe was straight up excellent in this game. He can hoop. Dude can hoop. He's just a basketball player who can play some basketball. No question about it. On the Nuggets side, 26 for Aaron Gordon, 18 for Michael Porter Jr., 9, 9, and 9 for Nikola Jokic, who finished with just 4 field goal attempts and 3 free throws. Truly a weird game. Jamal Murray made his shots early and then didn't make any more, finished with 8 points on 3 of 12 shooting. The Trailblazers, who turned it over early in this one, 7 turnovers in the first half, just 1 after halftime. Solid as hell. When they take care of the ball, they're really good. One thing we do have to do is we have to give out the Shania Twain impressive performance of the night. Shania, take it away.
That don't impress me much.
Look, Shania Twain's not impressed, but I am. Anfernee Simons is your Shania Twain impressive performer of the night. He was freaking great, man. Freaking great. It was just so good. And even if Shania Twain's not impressed that Anfernee Simons made 11 of 17 shots, I am. Even if Shania Twain's not impressed that Anfernee Simons went 7 of 12 from deep, I am. Even if Shania Twain is not impressed that late in the game, Anfernee Simons was moving the ball and making the right pass against a defense that was keyed in on him all of a sudden, I'm impressed with that. I want to talk more about Ants in the second segment. Actually, in yesterday's show, Anfernee Simons had finished up 3 straight games where he just hadn't been very good. Like he struggled early in these games. Huge fourth quarter moments, like big fourth quarter moments. Had a huge bucket late against the Lakers. Had a big 3, and then the game winner against Phoenix. But he hadn't shot it very well. He just hadn't been that good in these games. So I said, in tomorrow's show, it's a daily podcast, you should listen every day. But in yesterday's show, I said, tomorrow we'll talk about Anfernee Simons. Anfernee Simons did me a solid. He was excellent in this game. We will discuss all of it in the second segment. Join me there. But first, let me tell you about LinkedIn. It is the place that makes it easy to post your job, because these days, every new potential hire can feel like a high stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you got to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. One of the ways they do that is they've got simple tools like screening questions. They make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can prioritize who you'd like to interview and who you'd like to hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnba. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnba to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Still a pass first point guard. I usually do that in the third segment. I've done that 2 days in a row. Screwed up my second segment intro. All right, let's talk about Anfernee Simons. He was so good. I'll say it again. He was so good. It was a moment that Ant needed. To begin the season, Ant had gone 9 for 22 against the Kings. He went 5 of 17 against the Suns, and then 5 of 17 against the Los Angeles Lakers. That's pretty tough. A cool 19 for 56 to begin the year. That includes a 3 of 10 from 3 night, a 2 of 8 from 3 night, and then an 0 of 6 for 3 night against the Lakers. If you're scoring at home, which you probably are, that's 5 of 24 from deep to open the season. He was scuffling. He had huge moments when they mattered, but he was not himself. And I think it was reasonable to be like, oh man, Ant's got to get it going. And in the preseason, he even talked about I'm still learning how to play off Dame. And quite frankly, and if you're a loyal listener to the podcast, and I hope you are, I said, like, I don't even really believe that. I just think Ant shooting bricks. And I maintained that I felt like he was just shooting bricks. I don't think it was like comfort level off the ball. He's been one of the best catch and shoot shooters in the NBA over the last 2 seasons. He's really good at it. Like it's not an off the ball thing. Like, sure, he has more comfort getting into a rhythm, dribbling and getting into his stuff, but like he's really good. The skill that he needs to play off the ball, he's really good at. Like I wasn't worried about him. So if I mentioned on yesterday's shows, like, we'll talk about Ant. And Ant did your boy a solid because he was excellent. In fact, early in this game, Ant was just making shots. He hadn't been super aggressive and he wasn't prolific. Like, he only had 7 in the first half, but he was like, okay. Like, this thing is rolling. Like, this, he's got it going. Like, the shots look good. He got to his right hand, which is what he wants to do. Like, when he drives left, he's going to pull up. When he gets to it, when he goes all the way right, he can use his little floater moves much more effectively. He has a floater going left, but it's right-handed. He's better at pull-ups in that direction. Like, but you could see it early in this game. Like, this wasn't a bad shooting night for Ant. This is just a normal, like, okay, dude's finding a rhythm. Then the third quarter happened. This wasn't finding a rhythm. This was balling. And here's the thing. You get rolling with 1-3. Okay. He looks like he's getting going. Damian Lillard's like, let's get him involved a little more. Hits another one. Okay, now the crowd's going. Oh, gets a layup. Okay. Here we go. Like, the energy in the building change. The Blazers are from down 6. Okay, now it's tied. Now Ant hits a 3 and they're up 3. Okay, like the arena the mood in the arena has totally shifted and Ant is rolling. And so Damian Lillard does something that it's not that he doesn't always do, but like he was so intentional about it. He made sure that they were like, okay, go set a screen for Ant away and let him come up, like just one screen away for him so he can come off a pin down and get to the top of the key and just raise up and shoot over top of him. Bang. During that stretch, Nikola Jokic picked up his 4th foul. He goes to the bench. The Nuggets go small. When they go small, without Jokic on the court, even this year still, they killed the Warriors with their second unit, but they struggle. This team struggles on offense. So you're gonna have opportunities because you're not gonna be trading bucket for bucket there. And Dame sees it, and he goes to Ant again, and then again, and then again, and then Ant sidesteps and splashes another one from the right side, and it's just like, okay, and then he chases one down on the left wing, and it's like the building is going nuts. And what Damian Lillard talked about in the post game was that when he sees Ant rolling, when he sees Ant doing this, and he's hunting him, like he's making sure he touches the ball, not like calling plays, but actions to free him up. Hey, go get him. Like, hey, Jeremy Grant, go set a screen and let him get up here, or let's run let's free up Ant. I'll get him into stuff to free him up real quick, the way a point guard should. And Dame said that he's doing that with real intention. But he also found himself when Ant's hitting 3 number 4 and 3 number 5 and 3 number 6 during a run where he goes 8 for 8 and hits 6 of 6 threes to score 22 points in the third quarter. A third quarter, mind you, that the Nuggets scored just 24 and the Blazers scored 44, blew the game open with a plus 20 quarter thanks to Anfernee Simons. Anferno? Is that what we're doing? I'm doing it. I'm going Anferno. Anfurnace is also okay. I'll accept Anfurnace also. Both of those, if they're on your bingo card, go ahead and knock them off. But Dame said he took a moment to look at the crowd and say like, oh, this dude's going nuts. This must be what it's like to watch me. Which he didn't exactly say that, but the implication was that like, Dame knows what it's like to be in that moment and be Anfernee Simons. And he likened the moment to when CJ had 50 points in 3 quarters against the Bulls back in January of 2018, when it was just a night where it was like, oh, this dude's killing. Like, let's get him the ball every time down on the floor because they can't guard him. There's nothing anyone can do because everything is finding the bottom of the net. And Dame said, I've seen it a couple times before. Like, I've seen big nights from CJ like that. But Dame was like, I took a moment to soak it in. I took a moment to look around and appreciate it. And it felt like the roof, Ant's taking the roof off this thing. Dame said that felt like the fans were about to fall out on the floor. That's how excited everyone was in the building. You know what that is? That's Damian Lillard holding on to his joy. That's Damian Lillard seeing a special moment and saying, I want to feel this and remember it. Because Dame is like you, dear listener, dear Trailblazers fan. He was appreciating a special night from a special player. This is why I said I wasn't really worried about Ant. Not because I thought he was going to go 6 for 6 and a quarter or whatever, but because he's a bucket. The dude can really, really score. The thing to worry about him is the other stuff, like his weaknesses, right? Like the things that he doesn't get to the free throw line a whole lot. He doesn't, he's made some real strides as a defender, I think, this year. He's been much more competitive on that end for sure. But it's like, there are things that he's not good at. I'm not worried. He's 23 years old. I am not worried about him struggling at the things he was good at. And tonight was like, if he had the game I thought he was looking like he was going to have in the first half, he's going to score like 19 on like 48% shooting. I was like, and make 4 threes. I was going to be like, see, Anfernee Simons is fine, y'all. It doesn't matter. But he went so much further. And this was just a joyous moment, an appreciation of how good Anfernee Simons can be, an appreciation of how special this pairing can be, the Dame and Ant pairing. And I want to talk about two moments in the fourth quarter that really stick out to me as the most significant plays that Anfernee made. I mean, hitting a three at the top of the key while Christian Braun knocks him over to the ground absolutely fouled him on the release and should have been an and one to hit his 5th three in that sequence. Yeah, that was pretty special. To splash another three from the wing to make it 6 straight threes to open the quarter. My goodness. Yeah, I'll remember that too. It's like, oh, the Blazers are up 17 now? Like, what am I watching? Yeah. But the most significant moments for me, for Ant as growth as a basketball player, came in the fourth quarter. One, he gets to the top of the key and a lot of eyeballs on him. You're shooting like him, you get a lot of eyeballs on you. And Josh Hart cuts baseline on a cross screen, and Anfernee Simons fires a pass in from about maybe foot on the 3-point line to the Josh Hart along the baseline for a reverse layup. What a find. Absolutely just a dart. What a find. And then on the fast break, Simons gets it on when they're running in a 2-on-1, but it's kind of put out in front of him a little too far to his right, the way the pass comes, and the defense is there. Like, and Ant he's not yet in his career, and might never be, is like a cram on you type of guy. He can dunk for sure, but he's not like you're in front of me, I'm going to throw you through the rim type of guy. So he loops around, dribbles out to the left wing, circles back. The defense finds him. The defense, again, eyeballs on him, right? This is the hottest dude in the gym. But, he's killing. So when he does circle out to the 3-point line, defensive attention, defensive eyeballs, all finding him now with the ball in his hand, making decisions. He dribbles across the middle of the paint. The defense is there. The help comes. And guess who's waiting wide open with his feet set in the corner? Damian Lillard. Dame shooting like feet ready in shooting position, wide open 3-pointers is the dream for this team, right? Is Dame getting easy shots? He's one of the best hard shot makers in the league. He's one of the best. He's just been on a tear to start the season. He had another 31 points tonight. But Damian Lillard getting lost because a defense is obsessed with someone else, or is consumed, I think is a better word there, with someone else. That's the dream. And Anfernee Simons makes the right read. And those two passes, the right pass to get an easy layup and then an easy corner three in the right corner for Dame, that's the part that excites me most about Ant in this game. I know he can shoot it. Like, he's not going to have games like this all the time. If he has a bunch of 22-point quarters, that would be pretty fun. But, like, he's not going to have games like this all the time. But he's going to have big nights. He's going to score in the 20s a bunch because he's a really good scorer. But to layer that with then smart playmaking, high-level playmaking where you manipulate a defense, or at least, make sure you draw defenders and then kick. That's the level for him that he just takes that leap. When he's a playmaker beyond a pick and roll guy, when he's he's not just finding the pick and roll player, but he's making high-level reads across to find cutters and to find people across the side of the floor. That's what I really loved about Ant's game. This was a wonderful moment. And if Damian Lillard took a moment to hold on to his joy, you should too. This is a pro joy podcast. Anfernee Simons was so fun. The Blazers are 4-0. Enjoy it. You know what this is also, though? It's a podcast that admits when we get stuff wrong. If you're a long-time listener to the program, you know that I was dead wrong about this team. Absolutely 100% dead wrong about this team. Let's go to the third segment, and I'll admit it. You got me. Still a pass first point guard. I'm still Mike Richmond. You're still listening to Locked On Blazers. When the preseason ended and the Blazers were winless against NBA teams, and they wrapped up with some pretty underwhelming performances against Sacramento and the Golden State Warriors, I sat here in this very room talking into this very microphone and talked about how I thought the Blazers were going to struggle early in the season because the preseason had been so lackluster, so few moments of growth, so little defensive hope. I didn't love their depth. I worried about how, their big man rotation. I worried about how many forwards they had. I didn't like Josh Hart in the starting lineup. There were myriad things that made me say, I know it's just 4 games that don't count. I know it's just the exhibition season, but I think this team's not going to be very good. And I warn you, dear listener, to be patient with this team because, it's clear if you look at this roster, it's unfinished and they're going to have to make moves. And we if they're not there in the first 7 games, which are pretty tough, and then they go on the road for a 6-game road trip. And if they're not there after 13 games, it's okay. It's a long season. Their goal, their upside is still a play-in team anyway, so it won't change the outcome of all those things. And guess what? Your boy was dead wrong. Your boy was dead wrong. Dead wrong. 100% incorrect. They're 4-0. And it looks like a sustainable brand of basketball. When the Blazers went 4-0 right heading into the All-Star break, and I think a lot of fans and even the organization pointed to this as like proof of concept, I was more skeptical of that because Josh Hart shot out of his mind from 3 during that stretch. Like, he just shot so friggin' well. That's not necessarily sustainable. Josh Hart is like a career 35% three-point shooter, and he shot like something like 38% from 3 on 7 attempts a game. It's just like, he's not going to have that role. He's just not going to do that. Like, it's just not real. They were really good in those moments, and particularly the win in Memphis. It's a great basketball game, right? Like, I'm not taken away in the moment, but the idea that was like proof of concept to me never clicked. These 4 games feel different to me, and they feel different for a variety of reasons. One, they've just played better defense that passes the eye test. This isn't just, it obviously is a tiny little sample size. I'm not going to be citing defensive rankings or even those defensive numbers yet. Let's get 6, 7 games in 6, 7, 8, 10 games in the season, then we'll start talking about the numbers. But like, they passed the eye test on defense. I mentioned in yesterday's show, they just passed the eye test on defense, and the offense with the weapons feels sustainable. I'll admit that in the first 3 games, the Blazers winning close games, there's luck involved in close games. There's luck. It's just the nature of games that come down to 1 or 2 possessions in the final 2 minutes. Luck. It's luck. Good luck, bad luck, whatever it is. That's the hardest thing I think for fans to admit in sports and maybe analysts as well. I consider myself somewhere between those two because boy, do I love the NBA. But to some extent, I offer some analysis here. Like, there's luck involved in close games, right? The Blazers got lucky. Not because they didn't go make their own luck, not because they're not a good basketball team, but like, you play close games, you get lucky. You got to get lucky somewhere here and there. Jock Landale misses a shot. The Lakers subbed in the wrong point guard with 5 minutes left. Like, they got lucky. All right, it was like sure. But Monday's game was the second night of a back-to-back, playing against a good Nuggets team that just rolled over Golden State in San Francisco. Has had a day off in Portland, had a rest advantage in Portland, like in the city, ready to ride, waiting for the Blazers to get back from LA. Everything was leaning Nuggets in this game. The BetOnline odds had them as 3.5-point favorites at tip-off, 4.5-point favorites earlier in the day. This was a game that was baked in for the Blazers to lose. And early on in the second quarter, it's like, yeah, they're not playing poorly, but they're not in it. Like they're down double digits and they're just kind of, they're limping through this one. Nurk is struggling, they're just, this isn't, sometimes not your nights. And sometimes you just run up against a team that's a little better than you. Great close to the second quarter. Damian Lillard hits a great shot to end the half. High fives Joe Cronin on his way to the locker room. Joe Cronin sitting courtside with Blazers owner Jody Allen. And then the third quarter happens. And while that felt like a one-off moment, right? You're just not going to get many moments like that. And it was so darn fun. Like it's after 11 p.m. as I record this, and I'm still enjoying that third quarter. Like it was a ton of fun for sure. But the whole enterprise feels sustainable. They won a game in which Anfernee Simons played great, but I don't think this was I don't think this was crazy outside the realm of what he can play. Jeremy Grant looks like a wonderful offseason addition, just such a massive upgrade. He finished with 21 in this game, is 1 of 6 from 3. Like he was 6 of 7 on twos. Like the dude he racks you. Like he really if he can get to the rim, it can create his own shot. He's great in transition. He gets to the foul line. Like he plays defense and he's long. Josh Hart is maybe the most enjoyable player to watch in the league. Like he is an absolute joy. The dude is everywhere doing everything at all times. He is so fun. And he's a competitive defender who gets after it. And with better defenders around him, particularly when they've had Winslow and Grant with him, like they look like they can be fierce on defense. And Damian Lillard and Anfernee Simons have been competitive on defense. There are moments when those two gentlemen are still not great defenders. There's some times when Ant goes too far under screens. There was a moment against LeBron when he let LeBron go baseline. Like, sure, yes, absolutely, sure, you see it. But that's what I'm talking about, sustainable, even with some of their warts and even with the admission that there was luck involved in those first 3 wins. This doesn't feel outside the realm. This feels like a sustainable level of play. Damian Lillard's not going to average 40. Back-to-back 41-point games is a little bit too much, but I think Dame's going to average like 28 or 29, scored 31 tonight. Like he is capable of having bigger nights when you need him, particularly in a game that goes to overtime. Give him 5 extra minutes, he's going to score some more points. He's really good at basketball. The defense passes the eye test. The offense looks better. They're still way at the bottom of the league in assists per game, but the ball moves more. Like some of the problem with the just counting assists is that assists rely on makes, and the non-Dames in the first couple games, they weren't shooting particularly well. Anfernee Simons is not shooting well. It's less assists. Jeremy Grant is getting touches in the post and like isolations. Like those aren't assists, right? But the ball has moved a little more. Like you can just see it. They look better. This looks sustainable. And I want to mention something that Damian Lillard talked about in his post game to close the show. He talked about how the team is governing themselves. The big word for the Blazers is connected. That's the word they used. Chauncey Billups and Joe Cronin used together at Media Day. This is going to be the most connected team in the league and all these things, right? Like this was their branding. That's part of that connectedness is this trust. One of the things we talked about yesterday in the show, but some of it is just like knowing where each other are going to be. And some of that is holding each other accountable on defense. And Damian Lillard mentioned that they are governing themselves on the defensive end. And I think you can see the fruits of that. He's been more competitive. Anfernee Simons has been more competitive. I think Nurk has struggled at times a bunch on defense, but when he's had the right matchup, he's pretty good against DeAndre Ayton late. I thought he was competitive after a really tough start in this one against Nikola Jokic. I don't really credit Jokic's line for the way Nurk played, but Nurk did not let go of the rope when he could have. Josh Hart's been good on defense and competitive. Justice Winslow's been good on defense. Jeremy Grant's been good on defense. And Damian Lillard said that before they went to Santa Barbara for training camp, when they were just playing pickup, there were moments in the pickup games when Chauncey Billups would blow it dead, like blow his whistle and say, "We got to be better. You got to do this." And he would be the one to say, "You got to you need to be here. The rotation has to be here. You got to you have to trust your man will be behind you. So you got to go be aggressive because you got to know the help is there." That's the sort of connectedness, the trust. Then Dame said once they got to Santa Barbara, once they got to training camp, they started doing it to each other. And now on the court, they are governing themselves to be accountable and be competitive defenders. If if you watch the game closely, you'll see moments where Nurk and Jeremy Grant are talking, when Josh Hart and Jeremy Grant are talking, when Nurk and Anfernee Simons are saying, how do we want to do this? Or like, okay, you were supposed to funnel him to me, or you got to trust me to help, and don't over help and come all the way down and then give up a three on the backside. Like, you'll see them talking. You'll see them kind of getting after it in a way on defense that last year this team hung their heads when stuff like that happened. This team would let go of the rope. They would say, oh man, we're down 13 against the Nuggets in the second quarter. We're just not our night. And they would get smoked. This team is not letting go of the rope. They're more competitive. The dog in them per 36 is much higher. Shout out to the listener, dog in them per 36. They've just been really good. And Dame mentioned this. So it's fun to do it. It's fun to play defense with the type of attention that they're giving on the defensive end. If Damian Lillard buys into it all season long, if Ant continues to make strides on that end, and the upgraded defensive personnel that management added or retained in Winslow and Josh Hart's case, and Nurk's case in the offseason, with upgraded defensive personnel, and Gary Payton hasn't even played yet, and better defensive commitment from their poor defenders, Dame and Ant, this feels sustainable. They're the number one team in the West right now. I don't know if that's sustainable, but this is a good team. They're going to be in the mix. And I thought they were going to be like 9th or 10th in the West, battling for the final play-in spot. It's early. There's 78 more games to go. Who knows what the rest of the season holds. But right now, this feels real. This feels like they could do it every single night, and they'll go into every game with a chance to win, a thing that I just did not think was going to happen. I was wrong about this team. And I'm glad I was wrong, because they're fun as heck. They are bringing you, dear listener, a ton of joy. I'm having a bunch of fun in the arena. This is just a fun basketball team. So I messed up a prediction. I screwed it up, and it turned out great. How fun is that? Wednesday night, they play the Miami Heat. We will have a show after that one on Tuesday's show. This is Tuesday's show. This is Tuesday, October 25th show. On Wednesday's show, the show that comes out Wednesday, October 26th. That's going to be a mailbag show. I'm going to record that on Tuesday night. Let's get your early season mailbag questions in. If you have those questions, send them to me. LockedOnBlazersPod@gmail.com is the best place to send them to me. Or you can follow me on Twitter. I'll send out a tweet soliciting your questions at Mike G. Rich on Twitter. But really, I just prefer email. It's easier for me. Send them to me. LockedOnBlazersPod@gmail.com is the address for your mailbag questions. Season's here. We got to get back into some mailbag. Some of you have already sent me some, so no worries. I got them. Send me some more if you want to. Send me the email address or check my Twitter feed. Thanks for making this show your first listen every day. Free on all platforms, 5 days a week, the only daily Trailblazers podcast. Make it a part of your daily routine. Make it your first listen every single day. Why not make your second listen Locked on NBA, the overarching NBA show on the podcast? Get you caught up on all of the teams around the league in that same 30-minute format that you know and love. Also on all platforms, 5 days a week. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.